So moving into that, do you find getting this balance, have you now kind of found a way of taking a step away, whether it's like meditation or some form of fitness or activity that just sort of brings you back? Because I'm the same. I struggle with it. I'm a bit of an all or nothing person.
Yep.
So even when I am on a good roll, and then like at the end of last year, it's like kind of December, and there was parties a lot, and you just, you kind of. You just go with the flow, and it's like, okay, I need to...
Pringles is the simplest way of putting it. Yeah. If I pop open that Pringles packet, I'm eating all of them. That is the same with everything.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm in January, and I'm like, clean. I'm not drinking anything, and so I have to in or I'm out. But have you found any sort of ways of getting that, keeping yourself centered and focused?
My main go-to thing is breathwork. Completely changed my life the last day, I would say. Really during COVID. Someone sent me I actually went and did a course. It was nothing to do with breathwork, but it was called 40 Years of Zen. Don't know if you've heard of it. Dave Asprey's one of the guys behind it. It's neuroscientists. They kind of, it's like a brain hacking place. Okay. So you sit in these pods. Sounds really weird now. I sound very Hollywood. But it's up in Seattle, and I did 5 days on this course, which was amazing. It's basically they kind of use neuroscience and neurofeedback to hack your brain in a way that releases trauma. And the main thing of that is because obviously, we survive as humans because we push trauma down. That's why we're not always panicking, but that's also unhealthy because it catches up with you. I think the reference they use, and I might be wrong, so please people don't get angry, but zebras don't ever carry stress, because when they get chased by a lion, and there are videos on YouTube, I did do some research, but when they get chased by a lion and then they survive, they do this shake thing, and that's them. That was me doing a zebra. They then release their trauma, and then they go back to just grazing, and you see their tail wagging and they're happy. We do the opposite. We're trauma, boom, 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 boom. And then eventually it gets to a place where you can't remember it. So you're feeling a certain way, and you don't know why you're feeling that way. There's so many times, someone's like, why are you feeling everything's fine? Or why does the sound of a door slamming cause you that? So this place tries to unravel a lot of that.
Right.
Which is why I went, because obviously when I was beaten up and jumped, classic English mentality was right, you're fine, come on, let's go.
Move on with it.
And I think eventually it definitely caught up with me, because I was very living with a daily fear for no reason. Right. I was like that, and I just didn't. That was normal for me, and it wasn't until someone was like, "There's something that ain't normal. You shouldn't." A therapist was kind of like, "That's not. There's something there," and I'm like, "I'm fine." And eventually I went back and did a lot of this unraveling. Anyway, cut a long story short, the lady there, who was amazing, a lot better than this fucking dog, was what do I know? Okay. That she gave me this breathwork thing. It was a little YouTube thing, and it was amazing. It's 18 minutes long. And so I started doing that, and then started studying different breathworks. Obviously, there's Wim Hof, things like that. There's an energy breathwork that I do every morning now. It's 5 minutes long, and it changes it. And I think for men especially, we don't really breathe that well. Yeah. We're very women, are incredible. Let's be honest, they're better than us because they're more calm, they're more structured, they're more, there's so much about a woman that's better than men, because they're not, it's we're reactionary, and I think we're just too tense all the time. I see it in my friends, I see it with people around me, and it's we're that way. And I found that myself, I was as soon as you just took a breath, you were so much better. So then breath work for me is that. I'll catch myself having a tough day, and you're caught in LA traffic and you're stressed, and I'll just pull over and do a few minutes of just breathing, and then you're oh, okay, I'm way more stressed than I should be. This is actually fine, whatever's happening, it's all right. Yeah. So breath work is a big one for me.
I heard you was with a monk in Thailand as well. What was that?
I have been with a monk in Thailand. It was amazing. It was definitely an experience. It's crazy. I've spent a lot of time in Thailand. I have worked with an organisation called Not For Sale over there, which is against slavery and human trafficking around the world. And one of our first shelters is in Thailand. A lot of kids that have been rescued. And every time I go there, it's crazy how much you learn from these kids, because they've been through more than, I talk about my troubles, they've been through I mean, it's heartbreaking, and you can't even imagine, you know. And yet they're walking around smiling. You know, they're grateful for their bowl of rice that they have, and grateful to just play. You know, the game. Literally, when I arrive at the shower, it's like, let's play rock paper scissors. It's all they want to do all day long, and the biggest joy comes from that game. And then you kind of start thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, how? And in a weird way, like, how are they happier than I am? You know. We've got the cell phones, we've got the clothes, I've got the new shoes, and it just teaches you so much. Don't get me wrong, I land back in, you know, into our culture, and soon I'm like, oh, you know, want the new Air Jordans. Proper midlife crisis. So no, but they taught me so much, and I wanted to go a bit deeper that time, and someone had, you know, told me about this place in Chiang Rai. And so I visited and spent a bit of time with the monks, and it was funny because you do this like meditation training. And I was terrible at meditating. I'm still not that great at it, which is why I also go to breathwork, because I'm actually actively doing something, and I find that to be my meditation. But you had to sit in silence, and you know, you'd start with 20 minutes, then an hour, then 2 hours, then you know, you would really continue it. And the only reason why I was doing it was because I was promised that at the end of it I could ask the head monk one question. And I was like, that's huge, you know, like no one gets to do this. That's a great story, you know, it'll come up in a podcast, which it has, so I'm thankful for that. But it was like this one question, and it got to the day, and I walked up to him, and he just had this like grin on his face, like probably the happiest person I've ever seen in my life. Like, you know, when someone's smiling, and you're like, what? I want that. Yeah. And I asked him, like, what's the you know, the classic worst question that I'm sure he's been asked a million times. I couldn't think of anything else. Changed my mind about 5 times that morning, and I said to him, like, what's the key to happiness? Because he looked so happy. It just like, it wasn't the question I was going to ask. It ended up just changing.
What was you going to ask? By the way?
It was even worse. It was like, well, it was more about like me, I guess. Like, okay. You know, what should I be doing differently? And it was like, it was terrible. Now looking back on it, I'm so glad I didn't ask that one. But I asked him, I said, what's the key to happiness? And he said, you have too many choices. Take away choices. Wow. And it was a weird question to like have answered in that way, and I left that day and I was like, that's like odd. Like, why would you take away choices? That's like imprisonment. Like, my mind went so many different ways. And then I got back to LA, and I went to one of my favorite little, like, at the time, coffee shops, restaurants called Toast Bakery on 3rd Street. Have you been? There's some people here, Toast Bakery. And I sat there and I got their menu, which I used to love. And I opened up this menu, and it's one of those menus that you open up and it goes that way. And it was the first time in like that month that I felt so stressed in a stupid way. Because I'm like, I don't know what I want to eat. Like, what, I just, you know, suddenly I'm thinking, do I want soup? Do I want a sandwich? And then I was like, oh my God. That's kind of like the reference that I think, you know. And then obviously there's all these books, and it's not rocket science, but all on, you know, minimalism, and, you know, how there's friends of mine that will wear their black jeans, black t-shirt, black, you know, and that's their, and it is a lot of those times in just everyday life, I'll be like, the choices that we're faced with that are really completely pointless.